Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lancia Sones, and welcome to America's Leading Ladies. This is a book club that we've introduced. Laleh was the one behind starting the book club. Thank you, Laleh, for this. So today we have two very lovely authors. Our first author is Dr. Mary Clement. She is a licensed naturopathic physician and has been practicing homeopathy since 1991. And Dr. Mary Clement has had a very interesting career. She started in in fine arts, and she moved on to fashion, but later on she found her calling in life in homeopathy. So without taking up much of your time, I introduce you to Dr. Mary Clement. Mary, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that nice introduction. So yes, boy, it makes me feel really old having practiced medicine for almost 30 years. You know, I still remember when I first started how overwhelmed I was with all the new concepts. I actually was under the impression that potato chips and fruit-flavored gummy bears were healthy, at that time. So I had a lot to learn about natural medicine and what was healthy and what wasn't. So anyway, but my chapter to this wonderful book that represents so many of us, my chapter is on homeopathy. And homeopathy is a form of energy medicine. So my chapter is geared towards homeopathy, but it certainly is under the umbrella of natural medicine as well as energetic medicine. So I think of energy medicine, anything that changes the energy of the body. So that can be color, that can be sound, music, movement, dancing, and homeopathy is a real specific modality. But again, when we're dealing with the energy fields of the body, it can be so many other things. In fact, I was just commenting before we started how beautiful today is, and with this gorgeous blue sky, the color blue, when it enters through the eyes to the brain, actually increases brain serotonin levels, makes us feel better. It's like a natural antidepressant. So in a lot of ways, color can be as effective as a modality as homeopathy. Just knowing that the colors we wear, our surroundings, all play effect on our energetic fields. So I'm going to read a little bit about homeopathy from my chapter, and then I'll talk about a few homeopathic remedies and also some cases that I find were pretty instrumental in my really understanding and love of homeopathy because of the dramatic changes with such a simple modality. So let me get my glasses here. So there's a quote from Samuel Hahnemann that I started out with, who's the founder of homeopathy, and he actually intuited homeopathy in the 1700s, so it's been around for a while, but what a gift. So he said at that time, the highest ideal of cure is the speedy, gentle, and enduring restoration of health by the most trustworthy and least harmful way. So he, again, the founder of homeopathy, really expressed what we know in medicine today, and that is first do no harm. So it's a speedy, gentle, and enduring restoration of health. So when I was introduced to homeopathy in naturopathic medical school, I was skeptical of this unconventional healing modality, and I just could not comprehend that dissolving sugar pellets under my tongue was credible medicine at all. To graduate, I was required to take an introductory homeopathic class, so I attended with great curiosity. It wasn't long into the course that my head was spinning while memorizing all the unusual names of the remedies: Nux vomica, Lycopodium, Arnica, Passiflora, Staphylos aureus. What was even more confusing to me were the homeopathic's strange concepts, particularly that the concept of homeopathy, the remedy, was more powerful the more diluted down it was from the original substance. That just didn't make sense to me. When homeopathic prescribing was described as a spiritual experience by a fellow clinician, I felt numb to her experience. As a second-year student who was struggling to stay on top of an intense curriculum, I felt overwhelmed and mentally exhausted, void of her passion. Years would pass before I readily embraced my new role as a spiritually directed homeopathic physician. Now, I'll interject here that I'd gotten married the year before and I was pregnant all my second year with my first child. So I was exhausted. And the last thing that I needed to think about were all these unusual concepts of homeopathy when I was just trying to get through school and just kind of, with all the fatigue and everything else that came along with pregnancy. So homeopathy was intuited and created by Samuel Hahnemann in the late 1700s in Germany as a rebellion against bloodletting, leeching, and administering mercury until the patient finally gave up life. So in studying Hahnemann, I mean, if you were sick, don't call the doctor because you were dead at that point. The first thing they did was come in and open up a vein and just let the blood kind of pour because they thought they were getting rid of toxins. And then you get weak, so the doctor would come back the next day and open up the vein and take more blood, or leech, which is disgusting, or, high doses of mercury. That was considered a treatment. So people either went mad or they just died of, just lack of blood, lack of oxygen. So Hahnemann was actually a physician who rebelled against that, and he actually quit his practice in order to, I think he did medical scholars, he did dictating the different scholastic articles and books. He actually was a translator. So he gave it up because he just said he couldn't do what the medical profession was doing. So homeopathic remedies are made mainly from minerals, animal substances, and plants to go through a process called potentization. The more dilute, the greater the cellular energetic reaction in the body, thereby the more powerful. A remedy that is diluted 200 times from its original substance is more powerful than a remedy that is diluted 30 times. So if you go into the health food store and you see a 30C, that means it's been 30 times diluted with 100 drops, that's the Roman numeral C, from the original substance. So a 200C would be diluted 200 times with 100 drops of water from the original substance, and that is more powerful than the 30C. So in Europe, homeopathy became so important and popular that it soon spread to America. At the turn of the 20th century, and I made a mistake in the book here. It says there were 300 homeopathic hospitals, so that was my error. There were around 100 homeopathic hospitals, scores of homeopathic colleges, tens of thousands of homeopathic practitioners in the US. So, I wrote down some numbers here. So you have to think about it. 1900, we're entering into the a different revolution of manufacturing and all this other stuff. And there were 100 homeopathic hospitals across the United States. 15,000 homeopathic practitioners practice in the United States at the turn of the century. That's about, if you average it out, about 300 homeopathic doctors per state. 22 medical schools, homeopathic medical schools across the US, and over 1,000 homeopathic pharmacies. So in 1900, $4,000, and I don't know what that equates to in this day and age, but that's a lot of money back then. $4,000 was granted by Congress to commission the American Institute of Homeopathy to erect an impressive monument in Hahnemann's honor near Scott Circle in Washington, D.C. The monument was erected during a White House national ceremony in June 1900, and it was a symbol of the impact that Hahnemann's contribution made to medicine and to the health of our nation. And the statue demonstrates the importance and acceptance of homeopathy in the United States at the turn of the 20th century. At that time, there was smallpox and all kinds of different pandemics, and they actually, with homeopathy, did a better job in the hospitals with smallpox than, quote unquote, the traditional medicine of the time. So homeopathy was huge. And then, of course, the AMA, and there were a lot of, a lot of medical schools at that time that were unsanctioned. I could become a medical doctor if I just apprenticed with a medical doctor at the time. So when the American Medical Association was created, it really wanted to hone in on only having a few medical schools that they considered valid, and so homeopathy got pushed kind of to the side. But the impact of homeopathy is phenomenal. And when I say in the next chapter, the next page here, miracles, 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 I've seen more miracles in my practice with homeopathy than with any other healing modality. I'm not kidding. And it started from day one of my practice. I went to school, medical school, and you can add up the years. I'm almost 70. I started at 40 when I graduated, and I had 2 children at that time. So I kind of looked like I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know what I was doing, And what I do is I'd say to the patient, "Oh, I'm going to go check a book in the next room." And then I'd run to the next room, call my friend Michael, "What do I do? What do I do?" So I was pretty darn inexperienced and proud to admit it. But I remember one of my first patients, a woman came in for hormone balancing, nice woman. And she had her son sitting in her lap, and her son was going, "I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home." He's kind of whining and beating on her chest. And she'd say, "Son, we're going to, just take a few minutes. I want to go home. I want to go home." He's just whining. And I can't stand whining children. So finally I said to her, "Would you like me to order out a homeopathic remedy for your son and, kind of help his, just cheery mood, etc." And she agreed to. So I ordered out the basic remedy I didn't even have because I just started practice, and that was chamomile. So I ordered out chamomile 200C. I gave it to her. She gave him 1 dose. And in the morning when he woke up, he's like, "Hi, Mom." And he just ran around doing his business. And she called me up and she said, "Oh my God, I've got my son back again." She sent in her brother, her cousin, her mom. I mean, I literally could have changed the name of my practice and used their last name because she just inundated me with all these people that wanted homeopathic remedies. So just something so simple as a remedy to help a mom cope with a whining child. I have 2 daughters, and both of my daughters ended up going to college with the homeopathic kit because we used homeopathy throughout their growing up. And I honestly think I'd be in prison right now if I didn't have homeopathic remedies helping me cope with just, it wasn't so much the teenage years, it was the younger years, and that, when they get into 3 and 4 and they're so defiant, and it just brought them back to kind of a nice, relaxed state. And I just can't tell you how homeopathy really helps, helps the emotional state. So the way I think of homeopathy, we all have a personality, and it doesn't mean that homeopathy will change our personality, but we operate and we're healthiest if we're down here with this, lower this here, down here with kind of the pendulum of our personality. But once we're way up here and we have all these maybe physical issues, or once we're way over here and we have all these emotional issues, homeopathy just kind of brings things back into balance so that we can operate kind of in the best part of ourselves. So for me, my favorite remedy for myself is homeopathic hydrogen. So in this case back here, every drawer is filled with bags alphabetized of homeopathic remedies. And then I don't know if you can see in that cabinet, it's kind of glary over there, all my liquid homeopathics. I have homeopathy for allergies, for parasites, for emotions, for brain. I love taking a certain remedy for helping my memory. The hippocampus is short-term memory, so I have a little bottle up in the kitchen, and every once I go by, I'll spray it because I don't want to lose my memory as I age. So, so I have homeopathy that can address specifics, and then I have the other remedies we call more constitutional remedies. But my favorite remedy for myself is homeopathic hydrogen, and it's kind of it's a different remedy. You're not going to find it in the health food store. But hydrogen, when you think of the first element and how basic that element is, and hydrogen if we think about the Big Bang, back when the universe was created, and that spiritual energy creating that enormous bang, the first element was hydrogen that was created, and then helium, and then, then on. So hydrogen is as far as I can intuit and understand, hydrogen is the separation from our divinity. It's the separation from God. So anytime I feel like I'm veering off my spiritual path and I'm worried about finances, or gosh, I've been by myself in the pandemic, and what are we going to do with the retirement funds that have gone, when I get off my spiritual path, I just take a dose of hydrogen. All of a sudden I'm back on being creative and loving and kind and feeling, instead of being bothered by my patients text me like, oh, what does she want? I'm like, oh, what does she want? So it's a shift. So hydrogen, again, is a remedy that I use, and I've used for my patients to reconnect me and reconnect my patients with their spiritual essence. And I cannot tell you the difference that it has made. So I'll tell you a couple more. I have a list of some homeopathic remedies in here that are pretty common and pretty cool remedies. But I want to share a few stories again, and I'm going to I'll change the sex, and I won't give names, but I'll kind of change a little bit so that I'm not compliant with HIPAA regulations as far as patient identity. But these are some powerful cases that have stuck with me over the years. I once had a man come in who had seen his dog killed on the street. I mean, he ran out in traffic and the dog was killed. And the man was so grieving that every night he had nightmares, and he would stand in the middle of his bed and scream as these big crab-like claw things would come up and try to grab him. So he had nightmares for a couple of months, and he came in to see me, and I took the case, and I immediately thought of a remedy called stramonium. And stramonium is a remedy that is for shock and nightmares, and it was like if we had a big earthquake right now, there'd be two remedies that we would consider, and one would be stramonium because it would be such a shock. And I gave him one dose of one remedy, called him a week later, and all his nightmares had stopped immediately. Now that man's life changed just by giving him a remedy that was for that situation. A second case that was really extremely profound, and I wasn't a great homeopath when I started, but I was intuitive, and so I was lucky maybe with a lot of cases, but this one was particularly moving. This was a man who he was brought in by his mother, and he was in probably his 30s, and he had accidentally killed his best friend. And I won't go into the detail, but it was an accident, so he was never charged or anything. But he cried every day. He'd go to work, he'd do his job, he'd come home, he had a couple kids and a wife. He cried every day. All he did was watch TV. That's all he could do to get out of his grief. So his mother brought him to me, and I also gave him stramonium. And it was because of the shock and because of the overwhelming grief. And I gave him a series of remedies. So I started with a low potency, and every week I gave him, no, it wasn't every week, about every 3 days I gave him a higher and higher potency. And they lived about an hour and a half from me. And I called the mom when they got home just to see how he was doing with the first remedy. And she said, by the time they hit the freeway, he was smiling, he was laughing, he was talking, and he had not come out of that grief for 3 years. And he literally got his family life back. He was happy. It didn't mean that he suppressed the grief, but the grief was way up here. And so it allowed him to, just operate in more of his best self and have that grief actually be more in proportion to the amount of time that it took for him to get through that. So, so homeopathy, and I've seen vertigo. In fact, I just got a text from someone that wants to come in and get a remedy change for her vertigo, arthritis, fibromyalgia, hormones issues, infertility, alopecia, so many different aspects of homeopathy. But one of the main concepts of homeopathy is it works on the entire person. So if I take a remedy for vertigo, it's probably because my body is saying, you haven't dealt with an emotional or a spiritual issue. So I'm going to create something that you can relate to, because you're not dealing with this. You're not dealing with the fact that you were abused as a child, or you're not dealing with the fact that that you and your sister have this huge conflict. So what your body's producing is a physical symptom, so that you have to find out, when nobody else can help you, you're going to go to some kind of energetic medicine and realize that the physical symptom is there for you, so that you can dig deeper and heal the actual issue that needs to be dealt with. So anybody who comes in with a physical condition, I'm looking at, like all homeopaths, we're looking at the entire constitution. We want to know the dreams. We want to know the delusions, and delusions meaning like, I'm not good enough, or I have the delusion, and no one comes in and says, I have a delusion of, but it's the difference of reality. Like a delusion might be that, I can't take care of my kids and work at the same time. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but we look at the delusions, we look at the sleep patterns, we look at the cravings. Some, we call them remedy pictures. Some remedies will crave alcohol or will crave tobacco. We look at all of that. And so if I'm treating someone for vertigo, the person usually feels better in general, because everything gets addressed. So homeopathy, if you go to what we call classical homeopath, they're going to give you one remedy until you come back in 6 weeks and see what has changed. And we take copious notes because we want to see, what's changed. You can go to the health food store and get a vertigo remedy, and that might help with your vertigo. Those remedies in health food stores are very, very, very low doses. Most of the time don't have an effect on the personality. So if you go to the higher doses, then you're really getting into more dealing with the emotional state. So, like I said, homeopathy's just, it made my practice worthwhile. In fact, I remember the first day of practice coming home telling my husband, this isn't that much fun. This is it's kind of boring. Why are they coming to me? Why don't they go to the health food store and get something for their constipation? I don't really get it, And then when I started seeing the miracles of homeopathy, I'm going, wow, this is really fun. Then I started using applied kinesiology. So it's muscle testing in the office. You can also use, a pendulum, which picks up the energetic fields of the body. When I started combining using my intuition, which grew and developed, but also using more energetic, responses, then I was able to pick not only the right remedy, but the right potency, because I would test against a person's energetic field and then use that as a confirmation of what I already intuited. And sometimes I would be really off, but most of the time, all I had to do, and I feel like I've just been talking here, all I have to do is just quiet my mind, and that remedy would come through. And a lot of times, if I was really concerned about a case, I'd close my eyes, I'd just pause, and I go, okay, Hanuman, I talk to him up there, I go, okay, Hanuman, I need your help here, tell me a remedy, so it's all part of that, I guess, that beautiful gift of intuition that we all have, that I've been able to develop in my practice. And, I love using all forms of energetic medicine in practice. These remedies behind me have changed the lives of so many people that I've come in contact with. When I sold my big practice in 2006, you know, I had 4,000 people that had come through my doors, and probably 98% of those people had left with a homeopathic remedy. So, you know, it's pretty, yeah, pretty amazing. Anyway, I'm looking at the time going, wow, you did talk a lot. So anyway, so any questions that you guys might have that I could answer?
So I think, Mary, we have a couple of questions from Brian.
Okay.
He says,
Nice to see Brian back.
says, yes, Brian, oh, did you read that? Or
No, I didn't.
he says, I find it interesting how they define remedies today. What is the best energy homeopathy increaser for more energy and focus today, besides chamomile?
For more,
and I'll get to
okay.
later.
Yeah, for more energy. And what was the second part?
Besides chamomile. Oh, for energy and focus.
And focus. Okay. So that's a big question. You know, it really depends on your personality. So for instance, one of the first remedies I mentioned in here is Nux vomica. And that's on page 221. Nux vomica is for burnout from being type A. So you have, again, homeopathics are very specific to your personality. So a person who needs Nux, and I've taken Nux before at certain times where I pushed and pushed and pushed, but Nux vomica personality gets a lot of things done. But where the problem is that maybe in the middle of the night, especially between 3 and 4 a.m., they might wake up and start going after their to-do list, or they get impatient. So then they get heartburn. They drink too much coffee, too much alcohol. So we got the physical issues of heartburn, indigestion. Then we got the emotional issues of impatience, kind of being rude, just push you out of the way. So a person can be fatigued from just burning the candle at both ends and need Nux vomica. But if a person said, well, I'm not that kind of personality and I'm fatigued, then we would look at another fatigue remedy. Probably one of my favorite remedies would be phosphoric acid. And it's like phosphorus, but phosphoric acid. And it's from exhaustion, mental exhaustion, physical exhaustion. Any of the remedies that are acid remedies, like muric acid or picrum acid, the acid remedies have a level of fatigue and exhaustion. So muric acid, M-U-R-I-C, muric acid is for physical exhaustion. Pic acid would be for mental exhaustion, like if you're just studied out, or if you're a lawyer and you've been doing all this caseload stuff and you just can't think, that would be a pic acid. If you are exhausted from grief, or from, say, you had a flu and you had all kinds of, you know, loose stool and everything, and you're kind of wiped out, that would be phosphoric acid. So the acid remedies, phosphoric acid, pic acid, muric acid, those are the 3 best remedies that are kind of general for overall exhaustion and fatigue.
Brian has one more question. Brian, would you like to speak, or would you like me to read the question? I just want to give you an opportunity to speak to Mary directly if that's what you want to do.
You can read. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay. Brian wants to know, how have you studied BCD oils and about marijuana?
And could you repeat that again? I'm sorry.
How have you studied BCD oils and about marijuana?
BCD oils, CBC, you're talking about cannabis?
Yes.
Cannabis oils?
This is marijuana and BCD oils. I don't know what's.
Oh, okay, okay. How have I studied them? Well, actually, I don't use them in my practice because I have almost a concierge practice now. I sold my big practice, and the people that I work with right now are like those people that have threatened to follow me no matter where I go in the world. So I kind of, so I don't use those, but I do think that there's validity in those, and a lot of people use them for joint pain or for sleep. I know of a lot of people that, friends and just colleagues that have talked about that, you know, using some of those oils actually helps with a better, you know, better sleep, etc. But I haven't really used those in my practice. Yeah. but I think, coming from hemp, it's a natural product, and I think that we should definitely be looking into that.
And the next question is from Dr. Marie Floor. How do you differentiate acupuncture from homeopathy medicine?
Oh, good question. And both are energetic medicines. The acupuncture works on chi and works on the meridians of the body, and so that's very specific to points that are associated, maybe points in the hands or in the ears. Those points are specific for certain meridians that would improve physical or emotional function. Homeopathy is a specific medicine that is used with the concept of potentization and dilution. So again, it's a very specific process. So if I want to make a homeopathic remedy for myself, which I've done, I'll take 100 drops of water to 1 drop of the solution, and you succuss it. In the old days, they pounded it on a Bible, but you've got to shake it up, because what you're doing is activating the hydrogen molecules, so it imprints on that water. Pour it all out, put another, actually 99 drops, pound it again. So that act of pounding activates the hydrogen ions. So it's different than acupuncture that stimulates the meridian flow on a specific point. They both work on the energetic fields of the body, but they're just totally separate ways of getting there. That's a good question, though.
Anyone else? Laleh, Renee, or Jelena? I think I see Jelena.
Well, I love this conversation, Mary, and I'm so grateful that I get to speak after you, even though I don't know that I want to stop you talking. Actually, it's been such a joy, because I actually went to school to become a traditional medicine doctor, and one of the reasons I didn't is that at that time our world was very HMO based and was about prescription and give medicine and send them home, and if they had a problem they'd come back tomorrow. So it was more about quantity than quality of a relationship, and finding out the all in one of the person. And so for me, years later, I chose to go the business route and not the medical route after 12 years of healthcare. And I really have found my peace adding more energy work into my practice as well. And just everything that you shared, there's a whole new world, and people who really have tried a lot of things, sometimes, at their desperation route, they'll actually explore something that is what was innate to all of us. This was a starting point, so I'm just so grateful for you and your chapter and everything that you've done over the X amount of years that you've done it, and the gift that you still are to the world. And this new conversation, it's a conversation that a lot of people haven't had yet. And I really wonder, with this pandemic and everything that happened, how many more people are becoming more centered to actually look at their bodies and their lives and go from within, not what's missing, but start from within and allow that to exude out. So I just have to say I'm very grateful for you and your chapter.
Thank you. Well, I'm so glad I went before you, because I know if I'd gone after you, I probably would have thought, I need a remedy for insecurity and for lack of confidence. So thank you. Well, I have to say that the FDA right now in the United States is trying to ban homeopathy. And so anything that is, anything that would threaten the drug industry usually gets challenged. So of course we want to have good homeopathic remedies made, but it's amazing to me how this industry has survived, mainly because of Dr. John Bastier, who was the namesake of the school that I went to. He practiced back in the 20s, and they came in and raided his office all the time, and we would say to him, Dr. Bastier, how did you do it when they'd come in and they take all your stuff and, and they try to shut you down and everything? And he would say, the truth always prevails. And that's what we have to remember, is that our bodies are a temple of our spirit. And that if we have physical symptoms that cannot be addressed by traditional conventional medicine, it may be that our spirit is going, red flag, you're out of sorts, you're working too hard, you don't have good relationships, and I'm going to give you a physical symptom, and you're going to keep looking, like you said, maybe go to an alternative route in order to really find what your soul and your spirit is trying to say, and that is, come back to your spiritual essence. Hurry up, you don't have much time left. That's why I love my hydrogen, because it really puts things back into balance. But anyway, Laleh, thank you for that nice affirmation and nice comment, because homeopathy is just such a simple but beautiful and elegant way of prescribing. So I'm just blessed that I was led. It's like that country western song, God bless the broken road that led me straight to you, so when I think about my past and thinking that literally I ate such junk pretending that it was healthy, until I finally, found my way. So God bless the broken road that leads all of us straight to you. So anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
That is so well said, Mary. We have, I don't know if anyone else has, but Brian has one more question.
Oh, sure.
Can you define meridians and how they affect nutrient absorption?
Well, your meridians, based on Chinese medicine, are energetic channels in the body. And like anything else, if a meridian is blocked, and you can again use other forms of medicine or energetic medicine in order to unblock that, but specifically with acupuncture or acupressure, if you apply, it's like a point screaming out saying, if this point right here is associated with my digestion, and I press on that and go, wow, that's a little sore. Most times the points will be a little irritated. If I have an acupuncturist put a needle in there, it's possible, because that's associated with my digestive meridian, that would start the healing process. Chinese medicine, I mean, it's been around for how many centuries? It's very specific and very it comes from such an intellectual but also such a spiritual basis, that if you study the meridians and study pressure points and you were to stimulate that area, it's definitely associated with like the gut, or with it could be an organ system like the spleen or the liver. So just in a nutshell, they're just associated, the meridians are associated with different organ systems in the body and different pathways. So by stimulating or needling, you end up releasing that, so that qi can flow through and a state of health comes back. So thank you for that.
So with that, I think it's time. We thank you, Mary, so much.
You're
we
welcome.
appreciate everything that you've shared with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
I would like to introduce you to our next author, and that's Laleh. I don't know, how do you say your middle name, Laleh?
It's Laleh Hancock.
Okay, I'll say. Can I just say, okay, Laleh Hancock. Have I said it correctly?
That was amazing.
Okay. Welcome, Laleh. Laleh has, let me just go to your chapter. Laleh is a seasoned executive, a very long-time entrepreneur. She's the CEO of Balapemo, am I saying it correctly? And the president of Global Wellness for All. In the last 30 years, Laleh has built a consulting company and a leader. She's mainly a leader. After reading her bio, I see her as being a true leader in the world and really shaping people's lives. She goes, this is just coming off, she goes over and beyond because she gets to the heart of the whole person, even in business. And that really touched me a lot. And I'd like her to speak more on that, and because she has even brought wellness into her corporate life. So without any further ado, much time, I introduce you to Laleh. Laleh, take it over.
Thank you guys so much. First, I just want to say, I want to thank one person who brought 50 people together, which is not an easy task. Pat Sampson is actually the creator of this magical book. And I'm always so impressed with how she can bring some of the most magical people, but people that maybe on a day-to-day basis may never know each other. And there's some names out there that you all know, like Oprah and others, and there's some names that you may not have known, but the stories that each of these stories have been, and that's why we decided to have this book club, because there's so many jewels of being different, leading and bringing whatever might have been a difficulty to the triumph, to the real strength of us and what's within us. And my chapter, when I was putting this together, really looked at leadership, being a leader of today and for the future. And for me, leadership has never been, what's your title at work? It really has been from within you. Each of us is a leader. And it can start at the age of 2, and it could be at the age of 100. It's so anonymous to age, your culture, your background, your race, or religion, or anything else. And I do want to actually read a few items from here, and then I just want to jump into questions. It starts with you and your willingness to explore and be curious. We have the ability to look at the oneness of all things and how each can contribute to the benefit of the other. This leads to not only empowering other women, but empowerment of all with no exclusion. What does it take to be the kind of leader that changes the world and creates a greater future for all? From my perspective, the greatest leaders have a global wellness perspective where the thrival of every element of their lives, of other lives, and of the planet, now and the future, are included in their choices. As leading women, we are in a unique position to lead, nurture, and empower from the perspective of global wellness. We have the ability to acknowledge the oneness of all things and how each can contribute to the benefit of the other. This leads not only by empowering other women, but empowerment of all with no exclusion. Everyone, no matter age, sex, gender, culture, experience, or background, has something essential and unique to contribute. How we accomplish this begins with being a conscious leader and a catalyst for change in our own lives, that of others, by remaining always curious, asking questions, and challenging limitations, including the ones that are self-imposed. One of the greatest challenges women have is learning to include ourselves in the global wellness picture. In the process of creating a greater world, do you include you? Do you consider your body, your financial happiness, your instincts, and innate awareness of what else is possible in the world? As a leader, you must maximize your ability to include your joy, difference, and brilliance in the big picture. It's not a selfish pursuit, but fundamental elements of leadership that, when applied to your own life, determines how you engage with the world. It also invites others who desire to help create a greater world to play alongside you. Now, the different categories that I had was make you a priority, ask for and be willing to receive contribution, nurture your body, cultivate financial wellness, and listen to the subtle whispers. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'd love to now open it up to you guys and to any questions you might have, because each of these sections, like, I didn't just put it here because they're great things to share with the world. These are tools that I actually apply every single day in my life. Some days I forget them and I have to go back and remember, ask questions every day. But it really truly starts with us. And I think one of the greatest lies that we are taught from the minute we're a little child is don't be selfish. Instead, that's selfish. is actually one of your greatest and most unique gifts that you bring to the world. You being you, your joy, your ease, your creativity is one of the most beautiful uniquenesses that stand out. And like Mary was saying, when we go so much into the rhythm of the work or other people, trying to be the best mom, trying to be the best leader, employee, or whatever we're being, we have to actually give up parts to us to will someone think we are this great person, we are this or that. But when you start from within, your greatness will shine through. You will exude that. And that is one of the most precious and most beautiful invitations to others. But it starts with you making you the leader of your life. And my whole life, it was about everyone else. From the beginning, it was my parents. And at the age of 7, I was giving my dad advice about business, So for me, my life was always about everyone else, getting married, having children, getting divorced, and all these other things. And when I actually realized, no, it's not the selfish or what others think. When you include you include the world. You cannot make it about everyone else and exclude you, because there will be parts of you that you will chop off and give away, which then take away your natural energy of actually being you. So I'd like to just be quiet for a minute and ask you guys for any question. Looks like we have a few questions here.
That was beautiful, Laleh. We have lots of questions.
So it looks like Erica had a comment from Mary.
Oh, that was from Mary. Okay. Laleh, this is from Dr. Floor. Laleh, are you an older child? Stats show that older sisters are great world leaders. I love that.
Oh, you're going to laugh. I am not the oldest child. I am the middle child. I am the one that they usually think isn't what I am, but I ended up being the leader in my family in a lot of different ways. I actually would love to read this from Mary. So Erica says, Mary, thank you for making me feel better about my not believing much in the meds given by our doctor. I really believe in the homeopathic way. Thank you for what you do.
Anyone else has questions? Renee, for Laleh? Brian, anyone?
I have a question. Laleh, how, what you're saying is so timely for what's happening right now with, Black Lives Matter, just the whole cultural revolution that's going on in the world. How do you get this message out to children, no matter what age, what cultural diversity, how do we get this message out to the youth to believe in themselves? What's the best way to instill this early on? I mean, gosh, we shouldn't have to wait till we're 30, 40, 50 in order to finally get it. And I think the younger generation is so ready for change and they're thirsty for this. How do you see getting this message out to them?
I think it starts with this, ladies. I actually think this book needs to be in every single person's home, because we are actually talking about everything that people would be experiencing and seeing that there's another possibility than what they think is out there. I have a program, it's called Leaders of Tomorrow, and it's not just for the youth, but starts from the age of 8 and goes to over 100. And I mix it. There's people that are CEOs, have been CEOs forever, with an 8-year-old or a 12-year-old or a stay-at-home mom, or it's always been a mix of different people, because we all can learn so much from each other. And I will say it starts with you even having that as what your wish is, Mary, and would you be willing to share that on social media? Our voice is one of the most powerful ways and the greatest reach if we're willing to use it. Actually, do a lot of podcasts, interviews, and all sorts of things. I've been the last 18 months really sharing this book with all sorts of media around the world, because for me, most people don't realize they have a voice. And if we can empower them to know they have a voice, the voice is not just to fight for injustice. Okay? It's not to say, I am right, you are wrong. Your voice is to invite a different possibility into the world. And what I found during the before even this Black Matter, anyway, before the quarantine, one of the things that I realized is the conversations totally changed. When I was talking to anybody, including executives, they had this vision of 2020 and what they actually wanted to accomplish and the ways they wanted to empower. And then came the quarantine. And then I realized even the CEOs, even the people that normally are the ones that are the strong, that are the leaders in like, let's go this way, whether they have the title or not, they did not have a voice. They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to cope. They didn't know how to reassure their employees, their loved ones, their children. And I was like, oh my goodness, more than ever, people need to not hold back their voice. So, it was just really interesting to me that this whole thing that's going on today, what got created, because I spoke at a podcast with Tyro in, I think it was beginning of March, about the same conversation. And then this actually got created. So each of us, we are leaders, and we have to do it our way, not the way Laleh would do it, because that's not unique to you. And you have to find out, what are you passionate about, and what would your voice like to share with the world? And go where you're going to go. I'm partnering with an English speaking school in Portugal, because I'm in Portugal. I got quarantined here. I stayed and I love it. I'm going to just live here. But I partnered with the local school who asked, let's give me a few weeks while the kids are coming back. But I'm actually going to go talk to them about them, their bodies, having confidence, because we need to educate kids from an early age, not to tell them what to do or what to say, but to empower them to know their voice and their bodies matter, and let them choose what that's going to mean for them. And I say that for kids, but I mean it for adults. I mean, I have so many people, like you said, 30s, 40, 50-year-olds, even 25-year-olds who come see me. And after that, they have a level of confidence that they can actually even speak and tell their families what they desire, which they've been holding back their whole life. So what if there was no age, there was no perfect time, but this was our time to not create this exclusion, but truly be the inclusion that we all are. There are great people of all colors and ages and races and religions. And then you have others that are not. So we cannot make this be about that. Now, it did open up, it brought up things that needed to come out to the surface. But now that it's out on the surface, it's our job to, what are we going to do with this information? Are we going to use it to allow this to separate us even further? Or are we going to actually use it to allow us to empower each other, that we are actually oneness, and how we can each contribute to each other? So I think more than ever, we each need a voice out in the world.
Absolutely. Laleh, I'd like to ask you one little thing. You talk about whispers, and this is kind of one of those things that I wholeheartely believe in, and I try to implement in my life. And sometimes I try to implement it in the lives of others, and they give you that look and that, what are you talking about? And you can't help but sound a little crazy, or they think you're a little crazy. Can you give us a couple of examples of what you would consider the whispers that you're referring to? So they're coming from someone else, not this crazy person.
Totally. I'm happy to be the crazy with you. Okay. On that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I don't know. I'm going to invite each of you to, was there a moment when you just heard something, or you felt something, or you had an idea that just seemed so different than what was in front of you? And what if that wasn't your imagination? What if it wasn't that you were crazy, but it was these magical whispers of the future you know, your future business, your future relationship, just the future that was tickling you with ideas to be out of the box. You know, inventors, scientists, they don't think that's crazy because that's how they're able to stay to that new engagement of something that's never existed before. But we learned it's either A plus B equals C or it doesn't exist. But in reality, what if that's not true for you? And being in Portugal has been one of the greatest gifts. I fell off a horse and I ended up staying here, and my body healed very quickly. Actually, it was like, I'd like to one day do a case study on that, just because it was just so magical how the land nurtured me back to life so quickly. And one of the things I realized is, like, all my life, you know, things have been whispering to me, and I knew it. I just knew it from different ways. And then I have probably 4 to 6, if not 10 businesses that want to launch in the next year, like some of them right away. And in the past, I was too busy. I would have said, okay, maybe one of them or two. But now I'm getting out of the way, and I'm even letting those whispers talk to each other and allow themselves to be created. And I'll tell you, all I have to do is say, okay, so what is this idea that I need to be like paying attention to today? And then I'm networking. I'm finding people are finding me. I'm asking a question. That's it. It's starting with a question that you can ask. I think one of my most favorite questions is, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? If I don't choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if it's light and airy, or just you have space with it, it's usually a yes. And if you don't, it's constricted, it's usually a no. And I found that if I ask those questions, I am inviting that 5-year future that is not solid to talk to my solid head and give me information. So I don't know, Renee, if I actually answered what you were looking for.
No, absolutely. And I think whispers are different for everyone. So I think hearing from you how your whispers speak to you is important, and it makes us stop and think, what do we hear in our day or our lives that could be our whispers that maybe we're just saying, shh, leave me alone, you know, and maybe we should be listening
and
instead.
Sometimes it comes as your idea or a solution to a problem that seems so difficult. Or I want to come back to the beautiful artists we have here, you know, like when they have this white canvas and they get the idea of something and the mixing of the colors, that is the consciousness of that, whatever this thing that wants to come alive, that's whispering to us, you know? And I think we've made it that it's okay in certain industries, you know, maybe artists, it's okay, but business, it's not. And I have found some of the great leaders I've ever worked with, that's them. They're not looking at today alone. They're including the future. Those whispers is what makes them great leaders. So we've all had it. It's just that some of us maybe spoke out loud and shared one with somebody and they thought we were crazy, and then they held back from sharing it. But I don't know. I invite all of you to that my first question. Have you ever had that? And what if today was the day for you to stop ignoring it? And if you were even willing to take out an old-fashioned piece of paper and a pen and just put it in front of you and said, okay, what are these whispers I haven't been willing to listen to, and see what ideas come to your pen. If you had a superpower, what would it be? I would say it's actually joy and the willingness never to give up. Those would be 2 of my superpowers. I think we're
Dr. Flor says it's beautiful, Laleh. That was so beautiful. I've taken so many gems from you, Laleh. So thank you so much for that. Just joy listening to you, how you perceive everything in life and world, and what we are here to do, and how we share each of our gifts with the world. That's just beautiful. Anyone else has questions for Laleh? Oh, are we good on time?
No, but
I do just one thing. Can I say? Yes, I want to say that it's more of a statement than a question. I've been working with Laleh for the past maybe 2 months, and I see on her something that I don't see on a lot of leaders that I've worked throughout my life. She is exactly what she's saying. You know, she's not phony, like, oh, you gotta listen to the whispers, and she's not writing a kid's book. She actually is this. So, and I'm very, very excited and proud. And the other day she was like talking to me about business, and I work for her. And she was like, dude, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? And I'm like, well, that's something nobody asked me before, you know. So that's something that when she says that joy it's her superpower, it is, because we pretty much laugh all the time, and it doesn't mean that it's a stupid job or a silly job, or even that it's not done. It's done even better, because if she has to be pissed, she will be, because I've seen it. But if she yeah, and it's not the best thing to look, but I'm saying, so it's wonderful to be to be under her respectfully. So it's good to work for her. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a beautiful compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, thank you, Paolo. This was so amazing. And because I'm shorter time with Laleh, but like I've been learning so much just by her presence, and it's been really amazing for me to be like around, you know, like just to see the energy and all of that. So yeah, thank you. And thank you also, Mary, for sharing all of this stuff. It's really interesting to listen about all of these elements that can help us elevate. This is what I need, I think, you know, in this time, to have some hydrogen to go back to, you know, not thinking about the borders.
And I do want to comment that just that medicine has its place. And if I ever was in a serious accident and was taken to the emergency room, I'd be very happy to be there. So it all has a role in what we need on this planet. But the energy that like what Laleh does and what Renee does and Lancia does, all the things that we do contribute at a different vibration. Medicine has its own vibration, and sometimes it saves our lives. But again, joy and art and dance and music and homeopathy, whatever, when it starts to raise the vibration of us individually, we raise the vibration of the planet. And I think that's what we all want, is just to live in a world of harmony and joy. And our small contributions make a huge contribution. In fact, Laleh, when you were talking, there was an eagle with a baby eagle. You know, they're not babies because they're huge, flying. I was looking, an eagle and a new eagle that hadn't had its colors yet, was still model, was flying right in front of the house when you were talking. And I thought, man, if that's not a sign that you're divinely guided to be a leader, you know, being able to see the bigger picture, I thought, well, there you have it. There's your symbol right outside my window here. So thank you for sharing all that wonderful information in your heart.
Thank you so much, everyone.
We are like little baby eagles.
Yeah. Yes. Well, they are certainly symbols of wisdom, being a sage. So it's pretty fun to see them out in my yard here at the perfect time.
This has been wonderful. I think we are done for today. So, Laleh, if you want to say any closing, words.
I just want to thank you all for being here. I know some of you guys are watching this later, not live, but thank you for the choice to be part of this. And I really wonder what's possible in being able to really share the gifts of this book with the whole world, and for everyone at any age to know there's something else possible, like something different than they ever imagined. So, and thank you so much for hosting us today. So grateful. And Renee, thank you for your questions, and Dr. Farr, who left too.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. I'm not sure.
Thank you.
We'll have to check the list who's speaking next week. But thank you all for being here, and we'll catch up later. Bye.
Thank you, ladies. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.